Some horror movies want to entertain you. Dolly wants to disturb you, and that is a very different goal because a lot of horror films right now just want to entertain the audience. They want the crowd reactions, they want the jump scares, they want the popcorn fun. Dolly doesn't care about any of that. This movie just wants to make you uncomfortable. And for me, that worked. Dolly is basically extreme horror built around a central idea, kind of like Terrifier. The filmmakers created an icon character first, a 6-foot person wearing a cracked porcelain doll mask, and then they built this extreme horror story around that character. And honestly, the design of this character is fantastic. I can already see this mask showing up at Halloween Horror Nights. I can already see horror fans wearing this thing in the future. It is the kind of image that just sticks in your brain. But the question the entire movie raises is this: is that enough? Is the character strong enough to carry an entire horror film built around it? So the story starts with a father and his girlfriend and his daughter. The daughter gets dropped off at her aunt's house. Basically, the father has a plan. He's going to go on a hiking trip with his girlfriend to propose. She already suspects it. She has seen the ring. She's just not said anything yet. And she's also wrestling with the bigger question. If she says yes, she's just not marrying the guy. She is becoming a stepmother. So that tension is already there before anything bad even happens. They head out on the hike. He's nervous about proposing. She's thinking about what's next, what's the next step in her life might look like. And then something strange happens. Music playing in the woods somewhere. So, naturally, he decides to go check it out, which is the first moment where you start thinking to yourself, this might not be the best idea. He disappears, and then she goes out looking for him, and that is where she meets Dolly. Dolly is this massive person wearing a porcelain doll mask, and the attack that follows is pretty gruesome. She's taken back to the house deep into the woods, and from that point on, the movie becomes something very strange. Dolly treats her like a child. She dresses her up like a dog. She feeds her baby food. She forces her to drink spoiled milk through a bottle. She puts her in cribs and high chairs. It becomes this twisted version of motherhood that is incredibly disturbing. And the movie really commits to that idea. The house is filthy. There are dolls everywhere, rotting food, broken furniture, and the entire place feels like it's been decaying for years. And one thing I should mention is that the film was shot on 16mm film, which gives it this entire movie this gritty 70s, early 80s grindhouse look. And I found that absolutely mesmerizing. There is something about that texture that makes everything feel grimier and more dangerous. It feels like you're watching something you're not supposed to find. And that aesthetic works perfectly for this kind of story. The other thing that really works is the practical effects. The makeup team and the special effects crew absolutely nailed this movie. The gore looks real, the injuries look real, and when characters get hurt in this movie, you feel it. There is a moment later in the film involving Seann William Scott from the American Pie series that is pretty shocking, and the practical effects in that scene are fantastic. So from a technical perspective, the movie absolutely delivers what it promises. But there is also something about the movie that started to frustrate me. Because the main character is giving multiple opportunities to escape Dolly. There are moments where she could run. There are moments where she could fight back. There's moments where she could end the whole entire situation entirely. And she just does not do it. And that is where the writing started to feel a little lazy for me. It felt like the filmmakers could not figure out a creative ways to keep the story going, so they just relied on the idea that the character is a good person who just does not want to hurt anyone. But in a situation like this, where survival instinct should probably kick in, if someone is feeding you spoiled milk and locking you in a crib, that might be the moment where you stop worrying about whether you are being polite. And those moments did pull me out of the movie a little bit. The movie also raises some bigger questions about the world around it. This house does not seem that far off the hiking trail. People clearly use these trails. Hikers are moving up and down them all the time. And at some point, you start wondering why nobody has discovered this place before. Why has nobody found this house full of dolls in the woods where people disappear? It feels like something that should have been discovered long before the story begins. So There are definitely some logic issues in the script, but even with those problems, I still think I enjoyed this movie. Because if the goal was to create a disturbing horror experience built around a memorable character, the filmmakers actually pulled that off. Dolly is memorable. The mask works. The physical presence of the character just works. The practical effects work. And the overall atmosphere of the film absolutely works. This movie lives in the same world as something like Terrifier. It's not trying to appeal to everyone. It is leaning hard into the extreme horror audience. So if you are someone who just wants fun horror movies, something like Scream, this might be a little too much for you. But if you are the kind of horror fan who wants something more, something a little bit more intense, something more uncomfortable, something that pushes the genre a little bit further, then Dolly might be exactly what you're looking for. And I do think we may have just introduced a new horror icon. Whether you embrace that character or not is entirely up to you, but I think we might be seeing the beginning of something here. And one last thing, stay through the end of the credits all the way to the very end, because there is a fun little moment there that horror fans might just appreciate. And I appreciate you for going on this film journey with me, and as always, be real.
Your new doll. You're gonna have to play along.